All right, we've all heard the promise, right? That AI is going to completely transform education, creating these perfect, personalized learning paths for every single student. But, if you've ever actually used one of those early AI curriculum builders, you've probably noticed something's a little off. The logic's flawed, the sequence feels weird, it just doesn't quite work. So today, we're going to dive into why that happens and how a really major shift in AI, which is expected around 2026, is about to change everything. Okay, let's get right into it because this is a frustration so many educators have felt. We've got this incredibly powerful tech that can write poetry and code complex software, but then you ask it to build a simple, logical lesson plan, and it just kind of falls apart. It spits out these fragmented activities that don't connect to each other. So the big question is why? Well, the good news is there's a fundamental shift on the horizon that's poised to fix this exact problem. And this quote from researcher Matt Puri, it absolutely nails the core issue. For years, EdTech has been all about what's easy to measure, things like clicks, time on page, simple completion rates, instead of what's actually meaningful for learning. This whole technology-first approach means we often miss the entire point of good teaching. So here's the bottom line. Students stick with courses that make sense to them, that feel coherent and logical. All the research shows that when learning is properly scaffolded, building from one concept to the next in a really clear way, students persist. But early AI, with its jumbled, disjointed outputs, just breaks this fundamental rule. It creates fragmentation, not coherence, and that can totally derail a student's entire learning journey. But all that fragmentation is about to become a thing of the past. Seriously, we're on the cusp of a completely new era for AI, one that's way less about speed and more about something that, honestly, looks a lot like thinking. Let's take a look at the technology that's making this possible. So yeah, the next big leap forward isn't about making these models bigger or faster. It's about fundamentally changing how they even get to an answer. We're moving from these instant, almost reflexive outputs to a much more deliberate, reasoned process. And the techie term for this is test time compute. See, in the past, all the really heavy lifting, all the compute, was done when the AI was being trained. But now, we're seeing models that can use a huge amount of processing power, right at the moment you ask the question, that's the test, to actually reason through the problem, almost like it's going down a checklist against solid pedagogical principle. Here's a really simple way to picture it. The AI we're used to is kind of like a student who just crammed all night for a test. Yeah, they can spit back some answers, but they have no idea how they got them. This new generation of AI, it's like the student who can actually show their work, step by step, and reveal the logic behind every single conclusion. So here's how this thinking process works in the classroom. Before an AI using test time compute even thinks about giving you a lesson plan, it runs through this series of internal checks. It's asking itself, is the teaching method here sound? Is the cognitive load for the student appropriate? Have we covered all the prerequisites they need to know first? And only after it's verified all these steps does it generate a final, justified plan that you can actually trust. And this new ability to reason leads to something revolutionary for educators, being able to design a curriculum with confidence that you can actually prove is sound. This brings us to this amazing concept called defensible design. Because the AI can show its work, it gives you a reasoning trace, basically an audit trail for all of its choices. Now, an educator can go to their department head or to parents and say, look, here is exactly why this learning activity is placed here, and it's all supported by pedagogical evidence. It's an absolute game changer for quality and for accountability. Let's look at a real-world example. Using a trusted framework like Bloom's taxonomy, the AI can now reliably create activities that support much higher-order thinking skills. It's not just about facts anymore. It can generate a complex case study for students to analyze, or can even design a rubric to help students evaluate their own work. It's not a fact retrieval machine anymore, it's a tool for fostering deep critical thought. Okay, so if the AI is getting brilliant at handling all the complex, logical stuff, the structure of a curriculum, what does that mean for the human in the room? Honestly, this is the most important part of the whole story. This is the big question we all have to start asking ourselves. As we start to offload the really painstaking work of logical sequencing and validation to our AI partner, what becomes our primary job? What is our unique, irreplaceable value in the classroom? The pivot here for the teacher's role is just profound. The old focus was so often on the mechanics, right? Checking for errors, making sure lessons flow logically, all that stuff. The new focus is so much more elevated. It's on the things that an AI can never, ever do. fostering real emotional engagement, ensuring the curriculum is culturally responsive for every student, and building genuine human connection. This shift from the mechanics of teaching to the art of connection, well, it brings us to our ultimate takeaway. The future of education isn't about replacing human intelligence. It's about freeing it up to do its most important work ever. Think about it. As AI takes on the role of the master architect, making sure the whole curriculum is structurally sound, the teacher is liberated. They're free to become the master of what we can call relational wisdom. They can focus entirely on the human-to-human dynamics that are at the heart of real learning. And to really get a handle on this new focus on relationships, we can draw inspiration from these incredibly powerful frameworks like interdependent wellness, which has deep roots in indigenous knowledge. This concept recognizes that true well-being is all interconnected. It involves the person, their community, their history, and their future. This is the kind of holistic, deeply human perspective that a teacher is uniquely positioned to bring into the classroom. So what does this new human curriculum actually look like in practice? Well, it's about intentionally fostering a sense of togetherness and belonging. It's about building mutual support between students, sharing cultural and historical knowledge, and, just creating a space for laughter and love. These are the human elements a machine can create a structure for, but could never, ever truly replicate. This quote just powerfully captures the profound depth of this work. Suddenly, education becomes more than just transmitting information. It's a way of strengthening relationships and healing not just an individual student, but their entire community. Across generations, this becomes the teacher's vital mission. So when you boil it all down, the future isn't some battle between teachers and technology. The most powerful model is a partnership: human intelligence plus artificial intelligence. Together, they can create a learning system that isn't just more logically sound and effective, but also, and this is the important part, profoundly more humane. And that leaves us with one last, crucial question. If an educator's greatest value is shifting away from structure and toward connection, how do we need to change the way we train and support them for this incredible new role? That's the challenge, and honestly, the amazing opportunity that lies right in front of us.